This is the walkthrough video for PCTC 2021-2022 Round 1 Senior, Question 5, Winter Warmers. So this one is pretty complicated actually. Wants us to keep track of a lot of things. But as always, you can break it down and it becomes a lot more manageable when you do. The first thing to do is look at the inputs. So we need to input 3 numbers representing the hats, the scarves, and the gloves that we have. In that order. Okay, so hats is good. Let's just keep it as a singular word. So hat is equal to our first input, scarf is equal to our second input, and glove is equal to our final input. Okay, and we should probably also keep track of how many items of clothing are we wearing. So as in, how many of these 3 are we wearing? So let's just call that total, and total is going to start off as 0. And now we need to work through these 3 variables to figure out what we're wearing and what we're not wearing. Okay, so if hat is above 0, then we're going to be wearing a hat. So we can take 1 off the amount of hats that we have remaining, and our total is going to increase by 1. Okay, if scarf is above 0, very similar idea. We're going to be wearing 1 scarf because you can't wear more than 1. Well, you can, but the question says you can't wear more than 1 scarf. So we're only wearing 1, and our total is going to increase by 1 because we're wearing another item of clothing. And finally, gloves. So gloves is going to be a bit tougher because there's a case where you're either wearing 1 glove or 2 gloves, and you need to keep track of both. So let's say if glove is bigger than or equal to 2, then we are going to wear 2 gloves. So glove is going to be equal to itself minus 2. And because we're wearing a pair of gloves, that counts towards one of the items of clothing to keep us warm. So that means our total variable can also increase by 1. And if we don't have more than 2 gloves, then let's have an elif statement actually. So elif, we don't have more than 2 gloves, but we do have 1 glove. So elif glove is still above 0. Then we are still going to wear that singular glove. So we need to take off 1 from our variable. But because we need to wear a pair of gloves for it to count towards this thing, we aren't going to increase our total variable. So this way we've covered for both cases of glove. The case in where it's 2 or more, and therefore we can wear a pair of gloves, and the case where we only have 1. And if we have 0, then none of this code is run, so we can kind of just ignore it. Okay, so now we need to print whether we're toasty or cold. And we're going to be toasty if total is at least 2. So total is bigger than or equal to 2. Let's print toasty. And if it isn't, then we're going to be cold. And the final thing we need to print is how many items of clothing we have left in our bag. So that's just going to be the amount of hat plus scarf plus glove that we have remaining. And we can submit that code. Yeah, a lot of things to keep track of, but if you deal with things on a case-by-case basis, so the hats and the scarves and the gloves, then it becomes a lot more manageable.